us, especially in big urban cities, know what it is like to constantly be harassed and pushed by deadlines, to try and find that elusive work-life balance, to be stuck in traffic for hours, to basically not find time for a lot of the things that we would wish for. Find time for yourself, fix things at home, and so on. Well, trust startups to try and fix that problem for you. I'm now joined by the co-founders of Urban Clap. They say they are the largest online services marketplace in India. Abhiraj Bahel and Raghav Chandra are the co-founders of Urban Clap. Thanks all so much for taking our time to speak to us. An online services marketplace, for those of you wondering, and you can jump in and correct me if I've got it wrong, is your one-stop shop, they say, if you're looking for, say, plumbers, electricians, something personal like a beauty service, even yoga, and tuition for your kids too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Sorry. Thanks for having us. Exactly. So I think, if we step back, right, services is something that at least I describe as, very intertwined with our lives in cities. We all need a tutor for our kid. We need a plumber, an electrician. These are basic services that are very important. And traditionally what has happened is that the models that have been in play have been what I call rehashed versions of Yellow Pages. So, Yellow Pages gave us telephone numbers and believed that all the other work could be done by us as customers, which meant, finding somebody who's trusted and verified, finding somebody who's available for me in my locality, in my budget. And that's really hard. It's actually really hard to do all of those things together, which is why mostly customers would compromise, go with word of mouth, not really go for an online solution to these very basic problems that they have in their lives. These were problems that Varun, me, Raghav, we faced when we moved back to India. So I think what we're trying to establish is a very trusted marketplace, firstly, before anything else. A destination where you know for sure that whenever you're coming looking for a plumber, a yoga teacher, a guitar trainer, a photographer, that everybody who's there has been put through a very, very stringent checklist. And you know that they're amongst the best, that they're not going to look at your watch and decide the price that they're going to ask you.
Right. And that's an important point to make, because this is the reality of the times that we live in, that
Correct.
you don't want someone who's not verified or someone whose antecedents you're not sure of to be allowed into your home. We're going to look at that a bit more closely, but I'd like to go back to where it all began. Now, this perhaps, maybe there was a vacuum here, the point that you're making, and you've decided to come and fill it. Now, all of us have been aware of this vacuum, but you are the guys who tried to fill it. I mean, how? What struck you, and how did the three of you come to this conclusion that, hey, this is worth a shot?
So I think problems aren't new, just that when's the right time and just putting in the right amount of effort. Over here, the way I looked at it when we started off was India always faced this problem of delivery and professionalism, right? And I really wanted to do something to help at an infrastructure level, create a better way of employment, a more structured way where not only do people get business, but there's a certain way, cadence to what's the right way.
Sure.
Right? So for us, Urban Clap is more about, yes, structuring the supply side in a way where quality increases over time.
And all three of you, I mean, your third co-founder, Varun Khaitan, has decided to give this a miss. But tell me, all three of you were on the same page. Like, the idea struck you and everyone was like, hey, go for it? Or was there sort of like back and forth on, is this it? Is there something else? How do you sort of arrive at this point that this is what we are doing? Because there are three of you, it's not just one person.
Yeah. No, I think it was a fair journey. So I think first Varun and I started. We started with one startup idea. It's too naive to tell right now, but at that point of time we thought that it was going to be the next big thing. So we were at it for about 6 months or so, and we realized it was not really going anywhere. So one fine day we kind of
put a stop to it.
Lock, stock and barrel, just closed it.
Right.
We had been...
I'm sorry to interrupt, but that actually is an important story also to tell, because it just shows that you do stumble and very often fall on your face, but it's okay because you pick yourself up and then hit bullseye somewhere else.
Yeah, sorry. Absolutely. So I think, it was a difficult decision to make, no doubt about it. I mean, we'd put in 6 months of effort into building something there was actually decent amount of customer traction that we were seeing in the product. It was just not going to be the next big thing. It was, so at least from an aspiration perspective, we always wanted to solve a problem that was very large, very impactful. That was not going to be that. It was going to be a good lifestyle business, but not the next big thing. So I think, 6 months into it, it was a very important question for us to ask, what was the fundamental reason why we wanted to do this? Was it to just make a little bit of money, or was it to build a very large, sustainable, value-adding company? I think when that reality was staring us in the face, that decision was easy one to make.
Right. And Raghav, you worked with a startup too. This one was called Buggy, so we know a bit more about this, an auto sharing service that was available in Noida. Now, what's the journey been like from there to here?
Absolutely. So when I moved back to India, that was the first startup, and it was again in the whole services domain, where I'm looking at ride sharing and auto rickshaws. Of course, I was a lot younger then, a lot of things, a pure play passion. So good 3-4 months spent there, and I realized from a business perspective, operations perspective, things don't match. But yeah, it was a true exposure into the operational side of India. Oftentimes we do miss that, right? That's where you get exposed to what doesn't work end of the day, why don't customers like a service, what are the problems from a professional point of view, right? And once I traded out of that, then there were a lot of other things happening. And that's the time when we met for the second time.
Oh, I see.
It just so happened that our first startups closed off at the same time.
No, so this was actually his startup, and he was doing everything from coding to marketing to bringing auto rickshaw guys on board.
One-man army.
One-man army. And you have this nagging feeling when you're doing your own first startup that this may not go anywhere. Similarly, I had this nagging feeling about his startup as well. Again, this is also not going anywhere. And we were looking for somebody who could partner and bring the technical skill sets on board. So we were tracking him for a while, waiting for his startup to shut as well.
Right. And so at least one person was glad when that happened to have you on board. But, Abhiraj, first you. Now, you are from IIT Kanpur, as is Varun, who's not here today. You both went on then to have, I'm told, high-profile positions at Boston Consulting Group. You gave that all up to decide to come back and do something. I'm not sure if the idea was clear in your head. Why?
I think for a fairly long period of time that at least I have known, wanted to sort of build a business from scratch. I think there's just a lot of pride and a lot of happiness in trying to create value from scratch. This is something that I had known for a while. I just don't think the time, place, all of those things were coming together. I think Varun had similar aspirations as well, as I'm sure Raghav did. Around late 2013, we just felt that a lot of things were falling into place. There was some degree of financial stability. We had seen a little bit of, we'd gained a little bit of experience, seen a little bit of the world. India and Indian sort of consumer internet, startup ecosystem was coming of age. We weren't getting any younger. So I think, eventually it's always going to be that last leap of faith. It's the hardest.
Did people roll their eyes?
Oh, everybody.
Really?
Yes, everybody.
What's the kind of things that you had to face?
So I was getting married at that point of time.
Oh, I see. Wow. Wow, so that's a big risk.
That's a fair risk, yeah. Yes. My wife was very supportive, but I think everybody else was like, hey, you just got married. What are you doing? Why are you quitting your job? Give it a little more time, take it easy for a bit. But, these are things that there's no right or wrong. You just have to go with your gut. I just felt that the time was right. Just jumped in. Yeah.
Wow. What about you, Raghav? What has it been like? I mean, I'm told that once upon a time, you sort of wanted to settle down in Gulmarg and spend your days snowboarding. That's nothing like what you're going to do here.
Nope.
But what's it been like? I mean, how did you know I want to do my own thing?
I think that's the aftermath of the pampered lifestyle. The past 6 years I enjoyed. But yeah, I think one question I asked myself once I started working, and I think everyone who goes to college always thinks, they're going to do something of their own, more or less, right? So the one question which was a decider for me was, what am I really working for? Am I really working for money, or that dreams and aspirations which somewhere deep down exist, which I need to achieve? And for 6 months, heavy brainstorming with parents, I think they're the hardest people to convince. The call was made, all right, let's shift back, start something of my own, experiment, experience. There's nothing which the more corporate lifestyle could have taught me, which would have helped me try something of my own. So
I want to just go back to what you said. Like I asked myself, do I want to make money or listen to sort of my bigger calling in life? I mean, obviously the voice didn't choose money. Yeah. Wow. And that is the generational shift that I look at, because more and more people of your kind, doing your kinds of interesting stuff, talking about creating value, always say, we will make the money. I mean, there's that confidence there. Is that also something that you believe the three of you share in common, that we're going to try it, and failure doesn't sort of come to mind at all?
No, I don't think we think about failure.
Fantastic.
Yeah. In fact, I think the early roads to building UrbanClap were also pretty difficult. So I think they kind of set the right, context and the right expectation. So whatever little limited success that we've seen, this is all a surprise to us. I mean, we never expected the company to pick up so fast. In fact, we thought that it's going to take us probably 4 or 5 years to reach the point where we are today.
So what does that sort of mean for you personally? Do you have to sort of like, I mean, when I say personally, I mean the three of you, do you have to sort of like ever say, you're talking about this success, and very often you can't get onto, say, Facebook and not notice that there's UrbanClap and they're offering this. That's how I first encountered it also. But do you have to sort of tell yourself, slow down? Like, is that a conscious thing that, okay, or don't get carried away? How does that work? Because for every startup that's now making banner headlines for all the right reasons, there's always a footnote of someone saying, is it a bubble? Is it going to last?
I think one of the core ethos on which we built this company, one of the pillars of our culture is this word called basic. Almost every person in UrbanClap knows that word in and out. It's called basic, which means, don't worry about the clutter. Don't worry about what's happening around you. Just constantly focus on the work at hand. And if you make it about the work rather than about the outcome, there's always a lot of work to be done. We have a lot of work to be done, right? So I think, every day that's really what we choose to focus back on. In fact, I go back to, I think it was your story which said, hey, where are you going to get all the cleaners for the great party you're going to throw today after we announced our B round? Right. And guess what? Like we were working till 2 a.m. that day because there was so much work to be done. Who's got the time to party? Right. So I think the doubts of people are valid. In every generation, I think you're going to have companies that do well, and you're going to have companies that don't do well, right? It's just now that the spotlight on startups is a lot more. There are going to be failures, and there are going to be successes. Important for us is, how do we kind of be in the success bandwagon? And for that, I think, putting your head down, blinkers on, focusing on the problem at hand, that's, in my opinion, disproportionately more valuable and disproportionately more important than anything else.